The air in Ouagadougou had grown tense, whispers echoing through the corridors of power. Ibrahim Traoré, the young and defiant leader of Burkina Faso, had not been seen in public for days. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said he was gravely ill, others claimed he had been silenced, but few knew the truth. Traoré had been poisoned. The very man who stood boldly against colonial interference and foreign manipulation was targeted from within. Inside the presidential compound, doctors worked discreetly, treating him in secret. His closest allies kept the operation hidden, fearing chaos. No one knew who to trust. Every sip of water, every bite of food was now a question of life and death. And behind closed doors, Ibrahim Traoré prepared for a revelation that would shake Africa and the world. Traoré's recovery was slow but determined. As he lay in guarded silence, he reviewed intelligence reports, testimonies, and security footage. The poisoning wasn't random. It was a calculated move, an attempt not just to end his life, but to stop his mission, the mission to free Burkina Faso from the grip of foreign exploitation. Oil, gold, land. His country had bled resources for decades while its people suffered. Traoré had said no more, and that made him a target. He read names of those complicit, some foreign, some shockingly local. He wasn't just betrayed by outsiders, but by people he once trusted. And when he could finally speak again, he requested one thing: a press conference, not to reassure the public, but to expose the truth. When the day came, the world watched with bated breath. The presidential podium stood surrounded by soldiers loyal only to him. Cameras rolled, reporters packed the room. Traoré stepped out, not as a weakened victim, but as a man reborn in purpose. His voice, though recovering, was sharp. He began not with blame, but with truth. "I was poisoned," he said bluntly, and the room gasped. "Not by enemies of the people, but by enemies of progress." He detailed how international interests, threatened by his policies, had aligned with corrupt insiders to silence him. And he wasn't done. He named names, corporations, agencies, figures once thought untouchable. The silence in the room was electric. Traoré was not afraid. "I stand before you today," he continued, "not to beg for pity, but to light the fire of awareness in every African heart." His eyes burned with intensity. Africa has been fed poison for centuries, not just in food, but in education, in media, in politics. And now they tried to poison me for refusing to serve their system. His message wasn't just to Burkina Faso, it was to every African nation still struggling beneath invisible chains. "If I die tomorrow," he said, "let it be known that I died for truth, and truth cannot be buried." The room erupted in applause, some crying, some cheering. The moment had become bigger than him. It became a symbol. In the days that followed, reactions came fast. Some international outlets tried to downplay the story, labeling it unverified. But African media picked it up with fury. Hashtags like Traoré Truth and Africa Wakens trended across the continent. Youth across nations held rallies, chanting his name. Analysts debated whether Traoré had become too powerful or just powerful enough to make real change. Leaders in neighboring countries grew nervous, realizing the effect one man's courage could have. But the people were no longer interested in waiting for permission. They had seen a man survive poison and still speak truth. And that awakened something. Traoré knew he couldn't stop at words. He initiated sweeping reforms. He ordered an independent investigation into political corruption, including those involved in his attempted assassination. Several high-ranking officials were arrested, and international contracts were frozen pending review. Meanwhile, he doubled down on efforts to nationalize key industries, mining, agriculture, and energy. "Burkina Faso will own its future," he declared. Foreign envoys pressured him. But he stood firm. If they want our resources, he said, they must respect our people. Across the continent, the message was clear. The age of silence was over. In private meetings, Traoré warned fellow African leaders, if they could come for me, they will come for you. Some listened, others dismissed him, but no one could deny his influence. His popularity skyrocketed. Students, workers, and activists saw him as a beacon. This is our Sankara, many said, referencing the iconic revolutionary who had once led Burkina Faso before being assassinated. The parallels were haunting, but Traoré was ready. He surrounded himself with those loyal not to him, but to the nation, and every policy he announced was framed around one principle: sovereignty. The international backlash was swift: sanctions, travel bans, frozen accounts. But for the people, it only proved what Traoré had said all along, that Africa's independence was conditional so long as its leaders obeyed. But Traoré would not bend. Instead, he looked inward, calling on citizens to build resilience. If they stop our imports, we grow our own. If they cut off our funds, we share our wealth among ourselves. His speeches were now broadcast across Africa in multiple languages. He wasn't just Burkina Faso's leader, he was becoming a continental figure. Despite the pressures, Traoré remained grounded. He visited villages, listened to farmers, spoke in schools. A leader must walk among the people, he said, or he leads no one. His transparency earned him loyalty. His pain became the people's cause, and in every speech he reminded them, they tried to kill me, to kill your spirit. But here I stand, and so will you. Parents named newborns after him. Artists painted murals. His story inspired documentaries, music, and resistance. What began as an assassination attempt had become the birth of a new consciousness. The moment Ibrahim Traoré revealed the truth about his poisoning, he shattered the illusion that African leaders had to bow to foreign masters. He proved that courage still lives, even in the face of betrayal. That sovereignty is not given, it is claimed. He stood not as a symbol of revenge, but of rebirth. And his message echoed beyond borders. You may poison the body, but you cannot poison the will of a people ready to rise. Traoré's truth did more than expose a plot. It ignited a movement. And history will remember him not just as a survivor, but as a spark that helped Africa remember its power.